Thank Hashem that we're able to learn every day. So we're learning. We should have some English immediately. The last few words here. The Mishnah says, "Yitzia get veini my ksuba." My ksuba. Imai with the get, I guess what that means. She produces a get. A bill of divorce. Well, she presents it. She was divorced and she has a get, but she says she wants the money. So he said, "Well, where's the financial document?" And so she doesn't have the financial document. Right at this point, we think that she lost it. It's not so clear what's going on because there were different places. Some places would write the ksuba, and some places would not write the ksuba. And because the ksuba was there automatically, it was a institution by the court, by the bestin, that the husband had to pay. But whether they had the document or they didn't have the document, that just depended on the custom. But the obligation on the husband to pay that was there. Now, how would he prove that it was paid if there was no document? But if there was a document, then she would give him the document, and then that would mean that it was paid. But if there was no document, she would just say, "You owe it to me because this is instituted by this agent, so you owe it to me." So then how does he prove that it was paid? They would have to write a receipt. Over here, she apparently lost the document. We'll have to see. It's going to be a machlekes. What's the case of that? I don't know. The writing of it was dependent on custom. Yeah. So what's the rule? The rule is goyva ksuba, so she can still collect. As long as she can prove that she's divorced, she can collect the ksuba. Sounds scary, but because maybe it's her second time. She should have a receipt. He should have a receipt. He's probably saying that you gave me the ksuba after I paid you the first time, and I tore it up. Hence, there's no ksuba. See, okay. Show me the ksuba. I paid you. Yeah, but it turns out the halacha is not like that. Okay, we'll see it. We'll see what's going on in the Gemara. Ksuba veini maget. Let's say it's the other way. Let's say she has a ksuba. Now, this is really every woman has a ksuba. And she doesn't have a get. Well, he could theoretically claim, "Well, I never divorced you. So what do you make me claim?" But he doesn't say that. She says, "I lost the get." Gets lost. And Avad Shavri, he says, "Well, I had a receipt from the ksuba when I lost it." Why does she still have the ksuba?
Under the sheet. We don't really need to go about it.
Right, but he lost the receipt. She's still producing a ksuba.
I'm saying.
Oh, that's why she has. That's why there's a ksuba, because she can keep the ksuba if there's a receipt. Or maybe she pulled out a get. No, just one second. If she uses a get itself, she could collect with the get. Now she's not pulling out the get; she's pulling out the ksuba. Maybe last time she used the get, and now she's using the ksuba. And he said, "Well, there was a receipt." Says, "But I lost the receipt." Okay, my principal. Interesting case. Let's say there's a promissory note. The problem is that after Shemitah, all the debts are null. So the only way to get out of that is to write a principle. That means to give the documents over to give the loan over to the Bezdin, and then the Bezdin can collect it for you. Because the Bezdin is like right. It's sort of like eminent domain type of thing that the Bezdin can just call the shots on any property. So yiparu. These cannot be collected. So what are we talking about over here? If she doesn't have a get, and he says he lost the receipt, and also a balchayiv, a creditor that says he lost the principal. Shimon ben Gamliel is the father of Rebbe. He says that from the time of danger, which means from religious persecution, where people were afraid to keep their gittin because that was a religious document, and they were afraid to keep their principal because that was also a religious document. So they didn't want to get caught with any religious items. So then you can collect without them.
So when you get a debt is not.
Again, it's a halakha. What? No, a get has to be given unless he died. Yeah, but she could say that she doesn't hold on to the get because she doesn't want to get caught with it. The get was given. So when she comes to claim the monetary claim of the ksuba, well, where's the get? So she says, I'm not going to hold the get. It's dangerous. So, I don't think so. I think it was up to the people. Nowadays, the best keeps records electronically. Okay.
So case the woman who has a gap.
No, those are two separate.
I'm saying.
Oh, you're saying
we're mixing together two issues.
No, the principal was only for a loan that hasn't been paid. That hasn't been paid. Well, if it hasn't.
Yeah, the obligation.
Okay, so a ksuba that hasn't been paid maybe requires a principal as well. Yeah. So, okay, Shema Mina, whatever the case is, we see from this, it says that if she takes a get and presents it to the court that she wants to collect the ksuba, so the court accepts it. Now, so where's the ksuba? The ksuba is not required. So how does he protect himself? You have to write him a receipt. So Shema Mina Kais Shaiva. You see from this that we write the husband a receipt. Now the problem with writing a receipt is that now the onus is on the husband that he has to watch his receipt. Otherwise, she can just keep coming. Obviously, Kais Shaiva. The end Kais Shaiva. If they don't write a receipt, and then the onus is on the husband, maybe she's going to take the ksuba out again and collect again. Now, how's she going to collect again? Yeah, but they could if we rip up the ksuba, then then when there's no ksuba, she can't collect again. Then fine. But here we're saying that without a ksuba, she can collect. So that must mean that we're relying on receipts, prove that because she has a get. Now, maybe what's going to happen is, maybe they're going to tear the get after. So then she doesn't have a get. She doesn't have. Well, she's going to say, we'll see later on that she'll need a get to get remarried. But maybe they can do something to it to show that just that it was paid to the get. But what she could really do here is she collected with the get. Then the husband dies. And then she shows up and she says, my husband died. Maybe yes, maybe no, but yeah. Let's say. So she doesn't say the ex-husband that the husband died. And then well, now I want my money. So obviously he's going to need to have a receipt. Amar Rav says not necessarily. Okay, now this goes back to the pshat in the Mishnah. How was she able to collect the ksuba without a get, without a ksuba? How is she able to collect the ksuba without a ksuba, just with the get? We're talking about, Rav says, we're dealing with the place where they never wrote a ksuba. So you're right, in such an area, there would be a receipt. Of course, there's a receipt. There's no ksuba, then you have to write him a receipt because she never has a proof. He just has to hold the proof. But our question was, what about in places where you do have a ksuba? Does the wife hold the ksuba? Can we just write him a receipt, or do we hand him the ksuba and no receipt? So for that, you have no proof, because our Mishnah is dealing with a case in a city where the custom was that you don't write any ksuba. Shmuel says no. The Mishnah could be talking about a place where they do write a ksuba. Well, then it comes out very obvious that according to Shmuel, if she doesn't have a ksuba, then how can she collect? Where's the ksuba? It must be that that's not our issue. Our issue is, where's his receipt? The Gemara says, well, Shmuel case from Shaver. Comes out that according to Shmuel, everything is dependent on his receipt. We didn't know that we do that. That was machlekes. The halacha is not like that. The halacha is not that you don't rely on the receipt. We don't make him watch the receipt. Amarav Anan says, I heard the pshat directly from Shmuel. We're talking about Makom Shem Kaisvein Va'amer Kasavti. Actually, we're dealing with both cases. See, notice the words of Shmuel were Af b'Makom Shekaisvein Ksuba. Even in a place where they do write a ksuba, the same halacha could apply that if she produces a get, she can collect with that, even without a ksuba, which would seem to imply that he needs a receipt. Well, it's not so, because the Makom Shen Kaisvein Ksuba Va'amar Kasavti. Let's say it's in a place where you never use a ksuba. So his claim is, I know we never use a ksuba, but it turned out I was extra from, and I had a ksuba written, and I gave it to her. Now I'm afraid that if I'm going to pay with just the get, tomorrow she's going to produce a ksuba and make me pay again. So therefore, I don't want to pay. So alav lahaviraya. He has to bring a proof that either that he wrote her a ksuba and she needs to produce it, or that he paid already and where's his receipt. What does the Mishnah mean that she can collect with the get in that case? Well, that's what it means, that he's only believed he has to pay until he can prove that he changed from the community custom, that he actually wrote a ksuba. She's basically claiming, as originally we thought, originally we thought the Mishnah meant that she lost her ksuba. She's not saying that. She says, I live in a city where no one gets a ksuba. Not that she lost it. He's saying, no, you do have a ksuba. Saying, well, we don't believe him, because that wasn't the custom of that city. Okay. What about if it's in a case, Shmuel said the Mishnah could be read in two ways. It could be read also in a city where there is a ksuba. If it's b'makom shekaisvein ksuba va'amra loy kasfali, if it's in a place where they do write a ksuba, and she's claiming that, I don't know why, he never wrote me the ksuba. But it exists anyway, of course, because it's an institution from the sages. So Allah lahaviraya, then she would have to bring the proof. That's the case. So what does it mean that she can collect? We're talking about that she brought a proof. We're at the wedding, and they said after the ring, instead of reading the ksuba, her father saying sunrise, sunset. Typical wedding, huh? Okay. There's no ksuba. Okay, she would prove that. If she can prove that, then she can collect with again.
No.
No, it doesn't make sense now. Now the rule is that we do write a ksuba. But back then, when the ksuba was instituted, not necessarily was every city writing the documents. Yeah, but even like at the when the ksuba was instituted, it wasn't necessarily instituted as a document. It was instituted as the rule that the husband needs to pay it. And then it became a rule that it was written.
That's what's kind of confusing. This would have two meanings.
Right.
It means a document, but also
Right.
means a set of legal obligations, even if there's no document.
Right.
Same word.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it gets just a religious divorce. There's no monetary part to that. Although she can use it to say, look, I'm divorced now, you owe me the ksuba. The ksuba is only owed after the divorce. How do you prove that the divorce you have a get? So she's showing up with the get saying, you owe me the ksuba. He's saying, well, where's the ksuba? So then there's two options. Either she's saying that no one here writes a ksuba, so therefore pay me, or she's saying that everyone here writes a ksuba, but you happen not to write me one. And I have witnesses that you didn't write it. Yeah. You would have a get, and actually we tear up the ksuba. Yeah, we just tear the ksuba. At the get, actually, they hand it. So yeah, the best thing ends up taking the ksuba. The best thing keeps it, and probably destroys it. The get they keep on file. Okay. The ksuba is covered by the financial arrangements that are done in the civil court. In other words, if there's financial arrangements in the civil court, that will usually cover the amount of the ksuba. Well, everything goes into that, the alimony and child, all of that stuff goes into it. It's usually covered. Va'af Rav Hadar Bey, the Amar Rav, Bein b'makom shekais and bein b'makom shein kaisvin. Rav also changed his mind, and he started to say that the pshat in our Mishnah could be even in a place where they do write a ksuba, and she can still collect with a get. That's very interesting. He's not producing the ksuba. There should be a ksuba here. She's just showing up in court with a get, and she's saying, "Give me the money." He's saying, "Well, where's the ksuba?" He says, "No, I'm collecting without the ksuba. Maybe I still have it. Maybe not. I'm not telling you. I'm collecting without it." Get, what happens? Get goiva irka. The get is enough to require him to pay the 100 or 200. Ksuba, that's goiva tesefes. That's for to collecting the extra. He says, now, if you want to ask any questions, come ask questions. I've got it all resolved. This is Rav's pshat. Tanan, we're going to ask a question on Rav. It says, Ksuba, ve'ini maget. The second case of our Mishnah. First case of the Mishnah was she shows up with a get and she wants her money. Second case of the Mishnah is she shows up with just the ksuba and she wants the money. And he says that I actually had a receipt, but I lost it. And she says she lost the get. And the rule is that he doesn't have to pay. She says I lost my get. And he says I lost my receipt. These are not collected with these. Let's see, according to Shmuel, he's talking about a receipt. How do you ever get a receipt? What's the receipt going on? According to Rav, it's not necessarily to have a receipt, because when he shows up with the get, he can collect. And when she shows up with the get, she can collect the main part of the ksuba, which is the 100 or the 200. She's a virgin or not. And then what do? Then they take the get from her, or they put something on the get that's going to show that it was paid. Then she shows up with the ksuba and she can collect the extra, the additional part. And then they just take the ksuba away. So what's the receipt? According to Shmuel, there's places where you don't write a ksuba, and those places you have to write a receipt. It was what was going on. It was in a place where they don't write a ksuba. He claimed that I did write her a ksuba. If you're going to change from the minhag, the custom was no ksuba. You're claiming that there's a ksuba. Bring a proof. And if there's no proof, and we told him that he has to pay. So what do they do then? He had to pay, even though he claimed that he wrote her a ksuba. So he said, I'll only pay if you write me a receipt. So they wrote him a receipt. And now she's coming again to collect with the ksuba that he was concerned about. But he says, I lost the receipt. So we know what's going on. And the rule is that we're not going to believe him now no, we will believe him that he lost the receipt. Why do we believe him that he lost the receipt? And she can't collect. Because the custom is in that place that they don't write a ksuba. Something that not before. He's claiming like this. He says, you know why she doesn't have her get? Because that was the first trick she pulled on me. She showed up in court with the get, and I said I wrote her a ksuba. And where's the ksuba? If you produce the ksuba, I'll pay. They said, no. In this place, we don't write ksubas. So she has a get, you have to pay. So he said, I know the custom is not to, but I was extra strict and I wrote her a ksuba. I'm afraid to pay. They said, we'll just write to you the shayla. But now she's showing up without her get. Because you know why she doesn't have a get? Because I already paid that get. They already took it away or whatever. She has to keep. We'll see it soon in the Gemara what's going on.
Holding the shoulder.
He lost the shayfer. But she doesn't have a get now. So he doesn't have to pay without the get. So Ela Rav, but according to Rav, Rav divided it up into two separate things. Rav said that the get is enough to pay to require him to pay the main ksuba. And the ksuba was enough that was used to require the additional part of the ksuba, if you wanted to add on to the 100 or 200. So where's the shaver? Why does he have a shaver? The shaver is the receipt. What's it called? The shaver? I don't know. I guess it breaks the claim. I don't know what's the word shaver is. That's a term for receipt. So she's showing up now with the actual ksuba. So what are we saying? She can't collect with it. Why not? She's supposed to be able to collect the Tesefah. Talking about that no one knew that they were divorced. What does that make a difference? Migu diachalaima legarashtia is a migu. I could have told her, I never divorced you. You're showing up with the ksuba, but you're still my wife. What are you collecting? The ksuba for? I don't know you any money. We're just living separate. Addresses are different, but you're still my wife. I'm not paying. I never gave you the get. Now the truth is, he's not claiming that. He's claiming that he lost this receipt. But migu, since it's right. So migu that he could have said that I never divorced you, and there's no witnesses to disprove him. So then we believe him. Then we believe him to say that he lost the ksuba. Now, how does this help Rav? Yes, according to Rav, if there's no get, even though normally a ksuba is used to collect the tesefes, But because there's no get, he can get out of paying the Tesefis as well, because there's no witnesses that say that he was divorced.
Are Rav and Shmuel not on the same page here?
Yeah. Rav, they're just divided up between what the get could be used for and what the ksuba could be used for. And Shmuel says that it depends on the location. So according to Shmuel, we have certain places where the custom is not to write the ksuba. It's places where the custom is yes to write a ksuba. And in places where it's not the custom to write a ksuba, so he would get a receipt. In places where the custom is to yes to write the ksuba, then we just tear the ksuba. That's Shmuel's view. According to Rav, there's never any reason for a receipt. All we do is use the get to collect the main part of the ksuba, and the ksuba to collect the additional part of the ksuba. Gemara says, 1 second. If you want to tell me that there's no witnesses that say that could testify that she was divorced, and therefore he has a migu, he could claim that I never divorced you. Because he can claim I never divorced you, then we'll trust him when he says that I had a receipt, but I lost it. But since in the end of the mission it says Reb Shimon ben Gamliel Isha gave Kesubos Shalei beget. Ubal Chayv Shalei bepruzbal. The Gerushin Askinan. Reb Shimon ben Gamliel throws in. He comes in at the end, and he says that after the time of danger, the woman doesn't want to hold on to her get, so she should be able to collect without a get. The problem is, if there's no witnesses that say that she was divorced, then how do you collect the ksub? How do you collect the ksubah without a get and without witnesses of divorce? It must be that there were witnesses of divorce. And so she's not going to hold on to a document, but she will still call in the people that were there at the get and say, testify, please, then, that the get took place. So the problem now is, how could we answer according to Rav that there was no witnesses there? Rav Shimon ben Gamliel comes in and argues, and he's arguing, obviously it's the same case. We're going to have to adjust the Mishnah, and then everything's going to fit. The Gemara does this sometimes, and it fixes it up by amending the words of the Mishnah. It goes like this.
We have so many times there's certain mitzvah that the mission has to be adjusted. And one is
Someone said that
really makes a big difference.
right, changes the pshat. Someone said that really the Torah Shabbal Torah was not supposed to be written down. The Rebbe wrote it. So he wrote it anyway because he was worried that it would be forgotten. But he still didn't adjust every detail of it, so it's still considered oral. That's why we have the Suri Metzra. Keep it on. I heard from what's his name? That's Moshe Wolfson. He said that what gave Rebbe the koyach, right? Peis lasis Lashem to violate the Torah, to write it down. He said because when his mother was remember Rebbe had a bris at the time when it was, he would kill the baby and the bris. Anyway, on the way to they found out that they had bris taken away from the government. So they stopped in a place where there was a Roman that had also just had a child right then. He said, "Oh, no, you're going to kill the baby." He said, "Oh, why don't you just take my baby and show that there was no bris and then come back?" While Rebbe was there, he drank milk from the Roman mother. That milk that he drank allowed him to violate the Torah, to write the Mishnah later.
That's remarkable. Where is that story?
Someone told me Moshe Wolfson said it. But where's the story? I don't remember if it's in Avodah Zarah. I think it was. Okay, so that was his friend later, Antoninas. That was his friend.
Yeah, he was a Dorian. He was a common soldier who became emperor.
I'm not sure that part, but he was an emperor. Oh, so we're going to see that soon. That's going to show up. You'll see that in a moment, right before the Mishnah. Okay, so what does the Mishnah say now after the Chesuri Mechzer V'Achikani? It says, Hareyelu lo yiparu. These are not collected with just the ksuba, without a get. Okay. When are they not? When can they not collect with just the ksuba? That's because there were no witnesses of divorce. And remember, he has a migu that he could have said, "I never divorced you." They say he can say, "I never divorced you." He doesn't know. Then he could also say that I lost the receipt. But if there are witnesses to the divorce, then Gavia Tesefes, she can collect the Tesefes. That's what she collects with the Ksuba. Remember, this is Rav's view. The Iker, what about the main part? Well, Imafke Gita Gavia, Viloimafke Gita Legavia. Then she would need to produce the get, to collect 100 or 200. And then, Minasakana Ve'elech, but after the time of the danger of religious persecution, people wouldn't hold on to the gittin. So then, even without a get, she can still collect. We can still collect, Reb Shimon Gamliel says, because people wouldn't hold on to them. Amila Rav Kana v'Ravasi l'Rav. Rav Kana and Ravasi, two students of Rav, they say to Rav, according to you, that you say that producing the get gives you the ability to collect the main part of the ksuba. So almana min anesuin b'mai gavya. How would a woman collect her ksuba if she's a widow? There's no get for a widow. Where it says Beide Misa. Right. So we know that he died. So you bring the witnesses that he died, and that's enough. Where it says Girsha, whereas a concern, maybe he divorced her. She has a get hidden somewhere. But then he died. She goes ahead and she gets the Eidei Misa and she collects with it. And then she goes to somewhere else, to another bestin, and she produces the get that she had previously before he died. And then she collects with that.
Is there a time limit
To how long you have to collect?
she has to get? 8 years later.
Okay. That's the problem with requiring him to hold on to a shaper, is that I don't think there is a time limit. He has to hold on to it. Definitely, that's why we wanted to avoid that. Yeah. I think a lot of the credit card things, they're relying on that you lose receipts and you can't do it, you can't claim, it's returns and all that. Right. Right. Yeah. Right. Wow. It's different because a cracked letter thing doesn't validate. Yeah. Well, maybe it would invalidate the get at the time that it was writing, but not later. Okay. Right here. The Gemara answers that the only way that you can collect, at the time of with bringing witnesses that the husband died was only if b'yesheves tachas baila was only which we also know that she was living with the husband at the time that he died. Gemara says v'dilma samach l'misa gersha. Maybe he was living with her. But right before he died, he quickly wrote her a get, and then he died. And now she's going to collect what? She has the get, and she also has witnesses. So no one ever saw that she had her own apartment or something. Well, the Gemara says, he did that. That was foolish. He caused his own loss. Yeah, I don't know how the Gemara is like. But what about the claim? That's not enough of a. Okay. Almana mina irisin b'maygavya. Gemara continues. You're going to tell me that you need to have witnesses that they were living together in order for it to be able to collect with a demisa. But let's say they were never living together because they were only betrothed. Gemara says beidei misa. We're going to use a demisa. 1 second. But maybe divorced her. She uses a demisa, and then she's going to come back and claim. The Gemara now admits that you're right. We're going to need, in certain cases, to write a receipt. Where the whole time we're trying to avoid a receipt, I said there's going to be cases where we're going to need to write. This was a conversation between Rav Kana and Ravasi. Rav Kana, Ravasi, and Rav. You don't say this. They can end up going to two different bezdin, but they didn't, and collect different witnesses also that the person died. I was at the funeral, and then they just collect again. Obviously, we're going to need in those cases to write a receipt for him for the estate, for the orphans, to say that it was paid already. Amalei Markshisha Breder of Chisda Ravashi. Markshisha is one of the sons of Rav Chisda, and he's the older son. Shisha actually means old. The younger son was called Mar Yenuka, the younger son. Yeah. Although Tosfos says it's exactly that. Tosfos says that Mar Yenuka is the older son, and Mar Kshisha is the younger son. How they get the name if it's the wrong name? The answer is that Ravashi had a son when he was young, called him Mar Yenuka. He's young. But he's really older than the son that he had when he was older. That's called Mar Kshisha, the son he had when he was old. Anyone have that book? You know that book in China? Yeah, but in China they had the younger son. The older son always had a very long name, The younger son just had almost no name at all. Okay. Zaya? No. Tanya? No, it's someone else. But there, the Yunuk, I think it's Rav Kununa. I don't know if it's son or something. Okay. So Markshisha, the son of Rav Chisda, says to Ravashi, Almana mina iris in minalam dis leksuba. We get into like a very fundamental question here. You asked the question. You asked about is there a ksuba? How does they collect the ksuba if there was a widow from a betrothal? There is no there's no witnesses that they were living together because they weren't living together. So we had to say that they were going to write a receipt. Okay. Well, how do you know that there's a ksuba at all? Minon des ksuba. If you want to say, because it says Nisar Malay Niskarsha, Bain Maneris and Bain Nasun Gavasakol, we have a Mishnah. It says, widowed or divorced, she collects everything. Dilma de Kasavla. Maybe that was a case when he agreed to give her a ksuba, but there wasn't instituted that there should be a ksuba. He can agree to anything. It happened to be that he agreed to write her a ksuba. That's the case, that he agreed. So then why do we need a Mishnah to tell me that he agreed? I don't Mishnayos to tell me that he agreed to something, that he has to pay it. If he agreed, he agreed. But Mishnah would be telling me the default, even without his agreement. That would be the chiddush. Gemara says it's not so, because lapukim mit Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. Damash like kosavla ela manash shehu kainsa. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah's opinion was that if he writes her a ksuba, the additional money that he adds to the ksuba, he's only agreeing to if the marriage works out. And if he wrote the ksuba for the betrothal, but he's only agreeing to it if the marriage gets consummated. And if it doesn't, then it's not valid, the additional part. So what we're saying over here is that he wrote her a ksuba, and we're saying not like Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, and that she can collect the entire ksuba, even though the marriage was never consummated because he died. Okay. I'll prove it to you. The kind of goyva she can collect everything. If he wrote her ksuba, mishamach goyva sakol. If you didn't write her the ksuba, and you're just telling me that it's an institution from the sages, there is no ksuba, and that's where you want to tell me the chiddush, then how does he collect? What does it mean collect everything? Not everything. It's mana masayim udisla. She only gets 100 or 200. You don't say goyva sakol, everything. There is no everything. There's just whatever the ksuba was. Ella mitatani Reb Chia Baravin. Reb Chia Baravin taught. Ishta Yarusa le'onim v'le metamala. If his wife, if he's a kayan, so his wife passed away, he does not become an einan for her. It means he doesn't go into the intense state of mourning. He also doesn't go to her funeral. It's only a betrothal. It's not a full marriage. And she doesn't have to go to his funeral either. No, for her, there's no real halacha about her being a kohen. Mesa, if she dies, Eina Yarsha, he does not inherit her. Mesu, but if he dies, Goyva Ksubasa, she collects the ksuba.
This is still over.
Yeah, this is talking about Erison. So here we see that she's collecting a ksuba even without a document. That means that we have a proof. You see, the last Mishnah that we quoted was when he wrote a document. That we know that there was a ksuba. How do you know that there's a ksuba even without a document? By Erison. That says, well, Dilma the Kasabla. How do you know over here when it says she collects the ksuba, it's without a document? Maybe he wrote it the document.
Either in writing or in relationship.
Here we're saying that there is a ksuba that could be collected from the time of the betrothal, even without an actual document.
Well, then why write the Erison? So what do you got to do with writing? Right? But
You mean
there's
the body,
already
what
a
is it,
ksuba
tonight?
applied at the time of the Erison.
If he divorces her, she needs a get, but it's not an engagement now. The Tanaim is for an engagement. This is a real marriage. She needs a get. She gets killed if she commits adultery. She's a married woman, but hasn't moved into her husband's house yet. So when does the ksuba obligation of ksuba begin? We're claiming that it begins from the Erison. But the proofs that we're bringing are not real proofs, because we could say that he had just agreed to this extra obligation, but it's not really the original obligation. If you say that he wrote it, but it wasn't really an obligation, then what does it mean, Mesa? then Maila Meimer, so what's the chiddush? Of course he has to pay. The Gemara says, Mesa ina yarshet tzrichalei. If she dies, he doesn't inherit her. That's the chiddush. In other words, we didn't have a chiddush in the fact that she collects the ksuba that we know, because he agreed to it, giving her a ksuba. But we have another chiddush that he doesn't inherit it. Amalei Rav Nachman Rav Huna, Rav Damar Get Ikar. According to Rav Huna is the student of Rav. Rav Nachman is also, but But Rav Nachman asked Rav Huna, according to Rav, that says that the get could be used to collect the main part of the ksuba, which is the 100 or the 200. What happens if she produces the get? So they give her the money. How do they prove that it was paid already? Maybe she'll collect again in another bezdin. So we said, maybe they tear up the get. Amra, she's going to claim, I need the get. I want to get married. They're going to ask me, where's my get? The Gemara says, the Karinam lay, the Kasvina Nagabe. They tear it, and then they write on top, Gita Dinan Karanu. This get was torn. Lav Misham the Gita Pasalu. Not because it's pasul, but so she shouldn't collect again, and then she would keep the get. Yeah, you know what they call it, a tier of the best. They do is they make an X on the center. They fold it up and they make an X.
Yeah.
After it's given, they make that X. Yeah.
What's it called? Diagonal line. What's the name? Sheshiva Arab. Sheshiva Arab.
Well, Sheshiva really means like cross.
But it's used also in
It's used in
the office. It's used in many places.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Let's go. Let's do another Mishnah. Shnei Gitin Shtei Ksubas. She produces 2 Gitin and 2 Ksubas. Goiva, she can collect both of them.
Same guy.
Goiva Shtei Ksubas. Goiva Shtei Ksubas. She collects 2 Ksubas. I should have made a time over there. I'm sorry. Yeah, the same person. Yeah, that's what we're assuming. He remarried her, and he wrote her another ksuba. Shtei ksubas v'get echad. Let's say she has 2 ksubas, but she only has 1 get. A ksuba v'shnei gitin, or 1 ksuba and 2 gitin. A ksuba v'get umisa. She has a ksuba, she has a get, and then he died. And obviously, after he died, you can't have a get or a ksuba. But in those cases, you can only collect once. If she only has 1 ksuba, and even though he remarried her, but it could be that it was only the first obligation, that he was just re-accepting, and if he wasn't accepting a new obligation. Now, we're talking about the second case, not the first case. First case, he collects twice. She collects twice. The second case, there's 2 ksubas in 1 get. What's going on? She can collect with this ksuba, she can collect with that ksuba. Which one is the valid one? Now, the problem is that one of them has an earlier date. And you know, the rule is that any property that was sold after the date of the ksuba by the husband, the woman could go to the purchaser and extract the property from him because there was a lien on it. So what are you saying? She can collect with this one, collect with that one. So this could be a question on Rav Nachman Amar Shmuel. He said if you rewrote the document, then the second one invalidates the first one. What happened was like this. In the second ksuba, he added a little bit extra. And he tells her like this: if you want to collect from a purchaser that I sold it to from the earlier date, then fine, but you're not going to get the extra. If you want to get the extra, then you can only collect from people that I haven't sold it to yet, because of that there was no lien on that. Okay. Tanarabanan. They see a get, ksuba, umisa. She takes a get, she has a ksuba, and he also died. In get kadam ksuba. If the get was before the ksuba, notice the date of the get was before the date of the ksuba, so then goivesh take ksubas. Why? Because she has a get that she can use, and the ksuba was written later. Ksuba kedemis leget, then ina goivel ksubachas. if the ksuba was the date of the ksuba is before the get, then she only gets one ksuba. Because when he remarried her, he did not obligate himself again to another ksuba. He just reaccepted the old ksuba, and so she can only collect once. Let's leave it over here. Okay. Good day, everyone.
How was the day?